Hello again and welcome to another Mordian Glory bolt action video. And in today's episode, I am once again joined by my ever salty partner in crime. It is Oberleutnant Simon. Do you want Oberleutnant?
Well, whatever. It seems to change on a weekly basis.
I was thinking Admiral Simon, but
Yes.
you know that's kind of generic. So we'll go for Overlord because I was thinking Admiral Durnitz, but I didn't think you might want to be associated with him. And with that video already demonetized, let us march ever onwards into the episode. So we're doing this again. We're doing this again. We did our last post-battle thoughts like this, and we did that last time because due to force of circumstance, but we're doing it again this time voluntarily because the feedback we had was you guys much preferred it this way. You could hear Simon a lot clearer, and it just felt like it was a little just felt a little better. So we're doing it this way again, and what we're going to be talking about is our hot takes, first impressions of Bolt Action 3rd Edition now that we have both played a game, because it's all well and good reading about it, but it's very different when you actually start playing it. So if you, by the way, we have that video, that battle report will be out on the channel right now. So if you've not seen that game and you want to avoid any spoilers, then please go and check it out. Link will be down in the description, and then once you've watched that, you can come back over here and you can hear our in-depth thoughts. And if you have already seen it, then stay right here. You're all gravy. So I think we're just gonna be riffing a little bit today. We're just gonna be chatting a little bit bollocks. There's not going to be anything too much. We're very much just going to be having a bit of an organic conversation as things crop up. As we go, oh, and then what about this? And oh, what about that? But I will have a starter for 10. I'll start for 10. So, Simon, now that you've slept on it,
Yes.
how do you feel about there being more than one tank in the game? Because you were, in all fairness, shall we say, unconvinced?
Yes. When I first showed up yesterday and you had the armies out and I saw 3 tanks, I was just like, oh, I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure about that. But I've slept on it. You know what? It's. I think now it gives people more options how they want to play the game. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that can only be a positive thing. You know, if you want to run more tanks, you can do. I've got a little anti-tank list percolating in the back of my mind. But yeah, you know what? Now I've slept on it. If you asked me this time yesterday, I was like, not sure. Now I've slept on it. Yeah, I don't think it's bad.
I think it's a culture shock. I think it's genuinely. I think it's going to be a shock because one of the things that a lot of people like about action is that it's an infantryman's game. And that you know there's sort of like one tank, and there being more tanks, obviously that's going to change the dynamic of the battlefields, and this is something that I think is sort of the big topic, big thing that stood out to me was 3rd edition. When you read the rules, it feels like, oh, it's just an evolution. It's like 2.5 edition. No, 3rd edition is 3rd edition, and the game, even though a lot of the changes are quite subtle, and it's going to very much feel in terms of like the mechanics, like all the dice coming out of the bag, rolling to hit, applying a few modifiers, so on and so forth. It's going to still feel like about action, but the state of the game has changed, and I think personally, I'm feeling really positive about it. After our battle report yesterday, Simon, I am already jonesing, I say, for not one more game, 2, 3, 4 games. I could play this every week like battle report style, and it wouldn't get stale. As you said, we now have more options. I could turn up next week with, again, 3 tanks, but 3 completely different tanks. Go mid-war, 2 Matilda 2s, and something else in there.
Yeah.
So it's definitely changed, and it's definitely, I'd say, you got more options. The other thing I'm going to throw at you is, how do you feel about the scale of the game getting a little bit bigger now? Because it's the average that we used to play at and that a lot of people played at was 1,000 points. Now it's gone up to 1,250.
No, I was strange when we finished and we were just chatting and cleaning up a bit, and I was where I was sat around the table, and there was your spoiler. I didn't have any tanks left.
You started with more than me.
That has not changed the fact that in 3rd edition you popped my tanks in turn 1, so that's made no difference whatsoever. But I was sat watching your 3 tanks on one side of the board, and then like the infantry skirmish on the other, and I thought actually it looked bigger scale. You know, just from the way the board was set up nicely, and the 3 tanks. So in fact, it didn't feel that much bigger playing, but actually when you sat back and looked at it, you go, actually it feels a bigger game than the last one. And certainly I think you had 14 dice, and I had 12, so maybe 3 or 4 extra dice in there than we would normally play with.
Yeah, so normally we would both aim for 10 dice minimum each.
10 or 11, yeah.
And now, and like with a hard cap of like 12, that was sort of just the house rules that we like to play under, that a lot of people like to play under. And now I think the new one is going to be minimum 12 dice, probably hard cap of 16, I would say.
Yeah.
No, I mean that's just our house rules. Other people will find their own way. Now you say the game got a bit bigger, and I definitely agree with you on that one. I felt by it being a bit bigger, it felt a little bit more cinematic, because it felt like there was a proper tank duel and proper tank battle developing on one side.
That was not a tank battle.
There was a firefight!
There was you rolling a few dice and my tanks blowing up, but that's...
But there was a lot more smoke and stuff popping. A lot more burning wrecks, and it definitely... It felt a bit more cinematic. And what was interesting, it's just occurred to me now, I've only ever had that feeling once before in Bot Action, in the previous edition. When I played against someone who ran a Panzer Grenadier force, and they had a lot of trucks and half-tracks. And seeing all of those trucks and half-tracks like blown up, and seeing all the smoke of the battlefield, I remember, it was a battle part I was doing with James, and I remember looking at James and being like, holy moly, like there's a lot of fluff and a lot of like feeling and a lot of like vibe going on with this game. I know that sounds a little bit intangible, but it just felt a bit grittier, and it felt a bit more explosive, literally and figuratively. And I feel like that I've only had that once before in a very specific list in the previous edition. And in our first game yesterday, I was feeling it. I was seeing explosions popping off. I nearly used all my supply of Warlord little fluffy bits that they, they smoke they're giving you. So yeah, do you feel like with the greater scope, there is potentially, even if there's potential for more spikes, where if someone just gets a couple of hits on the tanks, now it's 2 hits you're getting hit by tanks rather than maybe 1. You feel that there is also maybe a little bit more potential for it to feel a little bit more bombastic?
Yeah, definitely. If you can put more tanks on, it's always going to feel like that. But we were talking about actually having no tanks as well, which is kind of the way I'm thinking about going. Perhaps suicidally, but
no, I don't think so. But carry on. Don't let me interrupt.
But yeah, it will be. Could you run 4 anti-tank guns and a lot more infantry, and do it that way, and kind of have the airborne at Arnhem kind of vibe, where you've got the panzers rolling over the bridge. So that'll be interesting. So certainly on the mission we played yesterday, I think that's certainly a viable way of playing. How it would play in some of the other missions, I don't know. It's only a first game, but you'd like to think that if you didn't. You don't want it to go that you have to run 3 tanks. That would be a real shame, that actually, if you're going to play the game, you're going to have to be running 3 tanks, because everyone's running 3 tanks. That's kind of down to the community to police that.
Yeah.
I think it comes down to your local gaming group and who you want to be playing with. I don't play in a cutthroat competitive scene.
No, neither do I. Not with Bot Action. I do with 40k, but not with Bot Action.
Yeah. So, perhaps for us, it's a bit less of a worry. But if you wanted to be slightly fluff, I guess you say that about any game, isn't it? If you want to be slightly fluffier and you're playing in a cutthroat gaming group, then I think 3rd edition is potentially going to make that easier, you know, for people to for people who want to be a bit cutthroat and play janky lists. It's certainly going to be easier. But if you're playing in a group that's not like that, then it doesn't have to be like that.
I agree with that, and I think what's really interesting here is there's going to be a really, I mean, let's make something clear. Bolt action is its own game, but you almost can't help but draw comparisons to other games. You know, we do play other games like 40k, and we play Old World as well. And one thing that I think is going to be a very, very distinguishing factor between 40k and Old World is going to be the meta, and specifically basically the conversation of local meta versus global meta. So in 40k, when something wins a tournament, almost within 48 hours, it is percolated into the global meta, and then also within a couple of weeks, it's percolated into your local meta. It might not be heavily there, but suddenly if everyone finds out Necrons are really overpowered, you're going to find a bunch of people pulling out the Necron armies and taking them to your local RTT. Or action, completely different. But action, it's all about the local meta. And it's amazing when you look at like 40k tournaments, they're all clones of each other. 3 days, 1 round, 3,000 points, using this terrain map. You look at a bot action tournament, you know, in the audition, some were 900 points, some were 1,500 points, some were 1,250, some were 1,000, some were 1,100. Why? We don't know. But it's just what that local club liked playing at. Some had dice limits, some didn't. Some allowed arm platoons, some didn't. Some allowed theatre things, some didn't. And so the big thing with bot action, you've really sort of hit the nail on the head there, is it's going to come down to the community policing, which has always been the case for bot action. Because bot action is one of those games where it's funny, people go, I like bot action, it's a more balanced game. And it's like, no, it's not. no.
Polish Lancers say no.
Yes, exactly. If you want to, bot action is really easy to break, but there's almost this natural instinct within a lot of bot action communities to, via one form or another, essentially sort of house rule it, or just sort of, as you said, police it, tone things down a little bit. Like there's no dice order limit in the core rulebook, but that'll be one of the first things that will eventually come in. And so I think what's going to be really interesting is, so we've got this conversation about sort of policing, but it's not just about policing, it's also about the conversation versus meta versus anti-meta. So you know, Simon, that I like tanks.
Yes.
I like big tanks, and I cannot lie. and you know, all you other tank commanders can't lie. Anyway, moving on. But therefore, when you build your armies to play against me, you know I'm always going to turn up with tanks.
Yes.
So you can anti-meta that, and you can bring a few anti-tank guns, and then I can try and anti-meta your anti-meta. Suddenly, I don't need to be bringing all of my medium tanks with anti-tank guns, you know, with medium AT on it. I might start bringing a few tanks with howitzers to try and counter that. And there's this like, it's quite a nice little sort of back and forth and game and counter game that's taking place even before we get into the game. And it's not so much list tailoring, because list tailoring is different. List tailoring is when you see someone's list and you tailor the perfect thing against it. There's a difference between that and being like knowing the player, knowing someone's play style, which is something that actually comes into account with tournaments. Like if I play against someone regularly at a tournament, it's like a local seed, I'll know their mentality, and I'll know if I push them here, they might fall back, or they're going to come at me hard turn one, that kind of thing. But the point is that I think that it's going to be interesting seeing how each bolt action group adapts to the new game. And some are going to be like, I'm in on that tank front, I'm super in on the tank front. And some are going to be like, we like 2 tanks max here, so that's all we're going to have. And some people just play it however they want. You know, some will be a nice mixture. One last thing, so I know I've been riffing for a bit, and then I'm going to hand over to you. You mentioned SKU lists. The funny thing is, as we talk about, I think everyone is talking about SKU lists at the moment, not just us, everyone's talking about SKU lists. You could always SKU list in 2nd edition, but what stopped it was if you SKU listed, something would always screw you over. So if I bring a load of tanks, and then you decide I'm going to bring a load of anti-tank guns, the way I counter that is by bringing just a couple of cheap mortars. Light mortars will do. Light mortars will do, because you don't get your cover save from a light mortar. So then you're like, well, I need anti-tank guns, which now, I need an anti-tank which can now move. So maybe I have to add a tank back in now on my own side. And it's like, okay, well, if you're adding a tank back in, maybe I need like an anti-tank gun back in, because I've just put all of my tanks on howitzers. And it's this thing where it's like, okay, what about the infantry? So I think what will happen is everyone's going to rush out there, everyone's going to skew list, and then what's going to happen is they're going to find they've not got all the tools in the toolbox, and they're going to go back to having slightly skewed lists, but they're never going to go to the extreme of like 7 T-34s. They'll have like 3 T-34s, and then everything else they need to balance list out. Otherwise, they'll get into a competitive situation where they just get flattened by someone who just happens to be able to deal with all their T-34s, and they can't deal with it back.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? The potential self-regulation of the game itself. As sort of always with bot action, potentially having this element of forced self-regulation, because if you over-skew in bot action, you can be caught out.
I mean, I don't play, and I've never played competitive bolt action. That's not why I play the game. So that's going to be difficult for me to. What I like, and this is what we were talking about yesterday off camera, is that I like bolt action. For me, is that I'm going to run my airborne, and I might have. I mean, I have a Cromwell. I should probably have a Sherman because of that would have been the first tank that got to the British airborne on D-Day. That's how. I just like the Cromwell. That's how I want to play bolt action. That's the people I'm going to play with. The group that we play with in the events and things like that. That's generally how they play bolt action. That's how I'm going to continue to play bolt action, and I'm going to find people who want to play bolt action that way. And I think that's probably the best way of looking at it for me personally. And I imagine for other people, it's if they do want to go out and play cutthroat competitive, they're going to find. They're going to play with cutthroat competitive players, and it's like I've said this before. It's like there's people out there that look at a rule book and their skill set is they're going to find the most broken thing in that rule book and put an army list around that, and then they're going to and that's fine. I play do that in 40k or try to do that in 40k to an extent with people we play with, but that's not why I play bolt action. And I'm never going to do bolt action because that's not how I want to play that game. How other groups police it, I imagine they'll police it the way they have done in second edition.
Just however how they like to play. It's a big difference. Local meta is so important in bot action, and some people, and I think what is good about that is bot action is relatively popular in the UK. You'll always find. It might not necessarily be in every single town, but within an hour's drive of you will find a gaming group playing that game. And I think the great thing about it is you will, if you're someone who likes to play cutthroat competitive, you'll find that group. And if you like to play it softer, you will find that group. Now, we've talked big picture here. So, first impressions. Bot action, 3rd edition, it feels bigger, it feels louder, it feels more bombastic, it feels like there's a lot more options in the game. Some of those options will really lend themselves to the competitive side of it, and some of those options are going to allow other players to build really, really fluffy lists. So just one example that's come to my head of that, I know in a summary you shouldn't add more information in, but I'm not at uni now, I can do what I want. So, imagine a proper Luftwaffe field division style army where you don't have any tanks, but you've got 4 flak 88s or maybe 3 flak 88s, like a battery of flak 88s, and supporting that is just loads of crappy Luftwaffe infantry, and they're trying to keep the guns manned while keep the guns firing whilst the infantry are holding, and they've got all the second and third line equipment. Now you could not do that in second edition. That is fundamentally a skew army, but it's not a skew, it's a themed list. And there's a big difference between a skew list and a themed list. So it's going to be, I think we're going to see potentially more extremes of armies, but I think a lot of those extremes are going to be, holy crap, 4 flak 88s, no way, holy crap, someone brought 3 tigers, oh my god, oh my god. So the British Airborne now, when they go into a battle, before they had one anti-tank gun and 1 Piat and had to pray they didn't come across anyone bringing heavy armor. And now it's okay, I've got me 2 Piats, I've got me 2 anti-tank guns, I'm ready to go.
And that's how I want to play my airborne now. Actually,
Yeah.
I can put my airborne on with 0 tanks.
Yeah, but 0 tanks, but not be screwed in anti-tank.
Well, we hope not.
We hope not. Now, let's zoom in.
If I haven't got any tanks, you can't pop them on the first turn. I'm working on
man's a genius.
different level.
This is it. This is the value of sleeping on it, isn't it? Yeah, of course. Now, and I think that's a good example of, you will want to adapt your army slightly. You'll be able to use the same army you've always loved, but as with any sort of new addition, you're probably going to want to get out those spare heavy weapon teams from your pile of shame and get those painted up. Now, we've talked big picture. Let's zoom in. Talk about some specific rules. We're going to throw some rules at you, throw some scenarios at you, and you can just give some hot takes on it. So, firstly, I know you didn't really get to feel using this, but you did experience it. How do you feel about anti-tank guns getting +1 to hit when they fire or ambush against enemy vehicles?
Seems vicious. I mean, you didn't need that. I think that, again, that was kind of what I was percolating around my brain last night when I got in. That kind of built into, you need the manoeuvring element of the game, that actually you want to be hitting on the 3 and not a 5. And that's a huge, that's kind of, how do you engineer being hitting on the 3 and not the 5?
It's a very good point, because it's like a -2, even though it's only technically a -1. The difference is huge. It's like double the chance to hit. If I don't know maths, me no math good, but it feels like double the chance to hit if you're going from a 3 to a 5.
Yeah, it's 1 in 3 or 2 in 3.
There we go. That's my bottom set maths showing themselves off. I was bottom set in maths actually, but I had a very, very, very vicious teacher for GCSE who got me from. I went into GCSE, middle, for the Americans, middle school maths essentially, and I in my last maths exam, which got me put into bottom set, I got 17%, which is low.
I would explain a lot.
It is, yeah. And then after 2 years of having this bottom set teacher he was vicious, but not in like a bad way, just in a, you're gonna learn, no gentle teaching here, no 21st century teaching here. Like, he threw chalkers and everything, always pens back in those days because they'd moved away from chalkboards. But I came out after that with a B+, which is, I think you need like 60 or 70% for that. So it was a pretty big step up. So big props to teacher. Anyway, bit of an off topic there, but yeah, going from the 3 to the 5, and as you said, engineering that is huge.
Yeah, and I think yesterday we just kind of drove our tanks over the hill and got blatted. Or I'll rephrase that: I drove my tanks over the top of the hill and got blatted. So I think if you were playing, to, without just trying to, all guts and glory and try rules out, that's going to be an interesting, actually, what risk do you put to try and get onto that 3? What are you willing to open yourself up to? Are you going to hide your tanks? And let's talk about a Piat team. Actually, I'm going to hide my tanks till hang on a second, there's an airborne Piat team barreling up in a jeep towards me. I'm going to have to do so. That's going to be interesting. And that yesterday I was like, oh, I'm not sure about that, but now I've thought about it. It is just going to lend itself into that kind of how do I put myself in that position?
Yeah, and you know what's really interesting? I think it massively shakes up how you deploy tanks, because previously everyone put their tanks in reserve. Anytime you could put a tank in reserve, that tank went in reserve. Because you didn't want your tank on the board, because if your tank started on the board, then the enemy could move their tank on, and then shoot you and often get the first shot. And if that first shot went off, that would be powerful. Also, because there's multiple tanks going on, you didn't want to have your tank on the board because you needed it as a reaction where your opponent might bring their tank on if one side didn't have as much anti-tank or another. Whereas now, you very well may want to take your Marder 3 or take your M10 and just be like, starting on the board, and the first dice that because I'm going to get turn 1, and if you're reserve, you're not coming until turn 2, first dice that I get on that is going to be an ambush. So
same with an anti-tank gun.
Same with an anti-tank gun. And the funny thing is going to be, like, you're going to hit them on a 3. Because there's no long range, there's no move, and you got +1, and you go like, really? I really don't want to bring my tank in reserve on there. But then what that means is, okay, well, you're not bringing tank in reserve over there. So now I'm influencing what you're doing. You're being reactive rather than proactive. And now I'm forcing your tank to go somewhere where originally maybe it didn't want to go.
Or actually then becomes more realistic, because actually you're then forcing someone to reallocate an infantry team to try and get that thing off ambush.
Yeah.
So.
And that's I guess you could say, the advantage of going for maybe a tank destroyer over a tank gun, because the tank gun could be sprayed down by assault rifles or something, but the tank destroyer, especially, or even just a tank, doesn't even have to have a big anti-tank, but a tank that's fully enclosed is like, okay, well, I can't just pin that up. So that's, yeah. So it really does add a lot of cat and mouse. And one last thing to mention is, you know how we said how you wouldn't want to lose your tank as a high value asset in like 2nd edition. In 3rd edition, if you brought 3 tanks, there is an element of, fuck it, I'll send all 3. I'll send all 3 in. Because that's what I did. That's what I did. That's what I did. I said all 3 occasions, went bang, all 3 tanks in, and you just like missed with one of your shots, and then it was like, okay, snap, next turn, snap 2 tanks, bang, bang. And it's one of those things where if you have all 3 tanks, if someone knocks one out, it's like, well, that's okay. We're still in the game. We still got 2 more. So it allows for both quite good cat and mouse, but it also allows for a bit of Billy Big Bollocks maneuvers if you're willing to throw a few tanks at the problem. You might lose them all, like Simon, or you might survive the hit, take 1 pin, and then unleash 3 tanks on the enemy, and yeah.
So yeah, that it was actually more impactful, especially now I've gone away and thought about it. That it's something I was maybe a little cold on yesterday, but now I've kind of thought about it and kind of worked out maybe how if we were playing, not saying playing properly, we were playing properly, but if we were playing less gung ho, how that would have panned out. Would actually you sat there with 600 odd points of half your list sat behind a hill because you don't want to blink first.
Yeah. Got another one for you. Oh, sorry. Carry on.
Right.
Carry on.
No, I was going to say, and actually the way, looking back, and if you look at the parking 1 tank where actually you would have had to have cut, my howitzer tank could have come out behind where you couldn't see it, peppered your infantry, and actually forced your tanks to come out first.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, they're definitely going to be interesting. Some interesting plays with that.
And as you said, we were playing very gung-ho yesterday, because for us, it wasn't necessarily about winning or losing. It was about, let's just create as many scenarios and situations possible so we can really feel the new rules. Whereas, like you said, in future games, it's definitely going to be a little bit more cat and mouse. Now, I got another one for you. It's just for you, not for me.
Okay.
How did you feel about double LMG squads? Double LMG Germans at regular.
They're quite funny. I've only got 4 men left, but I'm 36 inches away. I'm just going to sit here and ping 10 shots at you.
Yeah.
Hitting on 4s.
That squad was 90 points, Simon.
Oh, Jesus wept. Wow.
Nice, that, isn't it?
12 of them bad boys.
Yeah. Do it, man. And then you had the MMG as well.
Yeah, I like the MMG. I mean, literally, that actually felt like it was doing what it should have done between that and the LMG squad. crisscrossing rates fire, and I was just like, if you come out there, you are going to get blatted.
Yeah.
But then the kind of the other thing we're thinking at is pinning. Because in the old, in second edition, if you wanted to run a squad out across the open and you've got 2 or 3 people who you would just try and put 3 or 4 pins on it, you try and put pins on those squads to force them to hit on 6 on a 6. So if you guys are running across, that's literally like, well, we're going to put some. That actually felt like covering fire. If you strap 2 or 3 pins on a squad, they're going to be hitting 6 followed by 6s. So easy to now get the pins. I felt like pins were less impactful.
So I definitely think pins were less impactful on the to hit side. But what I found is there was a couple of times where, and I did this to you, a couple of times where I pinned the crap out of one of your units, and then it wasn't that it was able to shoot fine, it just then failed an order test.
Yeah.
So pins now, it feels to me like the focus on pins is to make units not do as they're told, rather than for units that do as they're told to then be basically they do as told and then they don't achieve anything.
Yeah, that's a good point.
What was there was one thing I was going to say. I can't remember. It'll come back to me. But I feel like that was it. So the big dip. So speaking of like pins and stuff, I really like the change to going down because one of the things that I used to think was a bit stupid is in previous editions is someone would like move a squad out last turn. They'd move a squad out. Last dice of the turn, they'd run a squad out, and then next dice, next turn, the next dice from their bag would be one of the enemy units, and they'd be like, "I'm just going to go down out the open, just like jump down the open," and they go down, everything would miss them, and then they'd pull the first dice like the following turn, and that unit would like just pop up and just sprint out, and it's like, well, hang on, what has essentially happened there is your guys have run out, roly-polied for a turn, and then come back out with a leaping sprint, like to keep going. And whereas now what it feels like is if you sprint out into the open, and then you don't get that dice, and you're forced to go down. At the end of the day, you're just out in the open, and going prone is only going to help you so much when there's 3 German machine guns just lacing it. Some of you will survive because the rounds will go over your heads or the rounds will stick in front of you, but a lot of you are just going to get put down. Doesn't matter how hard you hit that ground. You're not in a hole, you're not behind a wall, you're not behind a hedge or anything like that. So it felt a little bit more realistic there. Whereas if you do sprint out into the open and they get caught out in the open, you're going to be punished for it. But if you go down behind cover, it feels like you're really safe.
So I ran out in the open and got absolutely blatted. Whereas I think maybe in second edition I wouldn't have. I could have maybe ridden it out a bit by going down. But yeah, it didn't end well for those Volkssturm.
Yeah, it was the Volksgrenadiers, wasn't it?
Volksgrenadiers, yeah.
But the assault rifles, they didn't get to field to use them, but it felt good on the Fallschirmjäger.
Yeah, they were very good. But again, I moved them out thinking it was second edition, and then I was just like, oh, maybe actually I'm going to go back into, because I was thinking they were in hard cover. You were, pad pins. It would have been 6s followed by 6s, and actually it was 4s, and then so I kind of advanced them out. Went a bit more lethal out here. I'm going to go back around the corner.
Yeah. The game definitely feels a bit more lethal if you're not careful. I think if you're careful, you'll be able to manage it. But everyone hitting each other on like 4s and 5s is pretty lethal.
But just completely off. But before I forget, best change the new assault rules.
Yeah, you like them?
Yeah,
that's
makes so much more sense.
Very, very controversial hot take. Because I'm telling you now, there are a lot of people who are having some very unreasonable opinions about
it makes more sense if you think about it, right? If you're stood there, you know, I mean, Laser Quest doesn't count, so I don't know. But I would like to.
I'll allow it.
I would like to think that if I was behind a brick wall and someone came up and tried to stab me with a bayonet, I wouldn't just let them do it, wait till they kill 6 of my mates before slapping them back. You kind of think, well, I'm going to, you know, try and get you coming over the wall. So actually, if you're climbing over a wall to assault the position, it would make sense that defenders would strike first.
Yeah.
And if you're just scrapping in the middle of a field, again, you're not going to stand there and just take the slaps and then hit back, are you? It actually makes so much more sense. It really does. I mean, that's kind of like if there's two squads of 10 men brawling, they're both going to be punching each other at the same time, aren't they? You know, that's how it would.
Yeah.
It would work. I mean, in theory. I mean, you know, not in Laser Quest, you get chucked out, but that was a long time ago. It may have changed.
I'm pretty sure it's still no contact, Simon.
But actually, that makes that just actually feels more thematic, makes more sense, and actually, because assaulting was such a OP thing to do.
Well, we never did it to the extreme, but even my just basic Japanese army, many a game, it won by just Zerg rushing across the board and just diving on top of people, diving on top of people and just stabbing them up. Yeah. And I remember we probably played about half a dozen games, and it wasn't until I think game 6 when you actually beat my Japanese.
Yeah.
Because the first 3 games, you just got slaughtered.
Oh, yeah.
And then the second 2 games you got a draw, and then it was the 6th game where you actually got the win. And I think the reason why the Japanese were so powerful, and that happened to everyone. Commander James still he's never beaten my Japanese, he's only ever got a draw against them. And I think it's because when everyone else was playing bot action, it was all about like moving and trying to get around and shooting people a bit and all that kind of stuff. And the Japanese were basically playing a different game.
Yeah. But it was only one game they were playing.
Yeah. They didn't shoot you. But now it feels like the Japanese are playing the same game as everyone else.
Thematically, it makes more sense. It really, you know, it really does. It's actually, it just makes that's how you would expect it to work in a real situation, as opposed to someone rushing up, kicking 4 people, and the rest all just falling over without really getting a chance to.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it does help sort of accurately represent what the effects of the Banzai charge was. Because, you know, at first, they were pretty effective, but it was mostly because by the end of it, it was like the Japanese Banzai charge, wave after wave of Japanese infantry went in. It lasted all night. And once the casualties, it'd be like, you know, it was always, I remember reading like, or watching like World War II documentaries, they were like, the casualties were horrendous. By the time the sun came up, 2,000 Japanese bodies could be seen on the beaches, and 43 Americans had been injured. it was like, okay, yeah, maybe. Yeah. And it feels like that's probably what would happen now. And that's what the Banzai charge was. The whole point was it was, you know, going out with honor rather than, they were often meant as a way, we're all going to die anyway, so get all the injured out of the tents, give them a bayonet and everything. Everyone goes in. And that's kind of how it feels now. You'll do it as a desperate thing. Occasionally it'll catch someone off guard. A lot of the time it will get you killed.
Yeah, and I think it made, you know, I know we just did it just to see how it ran, and you know, if we were playing it properly yesterday, you wouldn't have ever made that charge. Not unless you've been starved of oxygen, you know, recently.
Well, I was dropped them ahead of the charge quite a lot, so there you go.
But, so yeah, I thought that I think that's a really, really good change, and it should, you know, just running up and wiping out units just like that shouldn't be you know, that's a tactic. It should be something that's a tool in your toolbox and maybe something of last resort. But actually, running up to a squad that's behind the wall with 5 submachine guns generally would not end well.
Yeah. You run up to them, they just stick the guns at the top and just hold, they just hold the trigger down. Anyone that makes, I mean, we've all seen Enemy at the Gates, right? If Enemy at the Gates was recorded in 2nd edition, that charge would have worked. But it turns out that Enemy at the Gates was actually recorded in Bolt Action 3rd edition, and it was very, very accurately represented how that scenario would go, lined up against the defensive position.
So yeah, I know that's one from what I've been reading. So there's been a little bit, but I like that one.
Yeah, no, I personally, I like it too, and I'm saying this as the Japanese player because I know a lot of people who had a negative experience against the Japanese when I ran them, and I can assure you, it was not my fault. Some of you may disagree. But it was just the way the Japanese played. The Japanese play, it was a real power trip for you playing them. So much fun for you playing them. But for the person on the side of the table, often it was a little unpleasant. But looking big picture, I really like it because it's going to shake up the competitive meta. Because even though we have only very lightly dipped our toe in that area, basically every single, there'll be a few exceptions, basically every single top tier competitive army in Bolt Action in 2nd edition was a combat army. It was 30 Recce Polish Lancers. It was British Gurkhas coming out the wazoo. It was Japanese 60 Bamboo Spear Fighters. And now that's going to change. So I wonder where they're going to pivot to, man.
I don't know. Gurkhas are still.
Gurkhas are still good, and maybe they're even better because everyone else is even worse now, and they've sort of managed to maintain.
Yes.
But I've seen a battle report on Johnny's channel, Scholar of Genium. Go and check it out. I'll try and make sure there's a link down in the description. To the battle report, there was a in his battle report he had it was like 10 Gurkhas going to like 10 regular German grenadiers. And the German grenadiers were behind a barricade, and they lost the combat, but there was only 3 Gurkhas left by the time they were done, which would never have happened in.
They just cleaned them right off.
Yeah, so assault is very vicious, and a defender position is going to be your best friend when the bayonets come out.
Yeah, definitely like that one.
So we've talked about some specific rules that we like and some big changes that people need to be aware of. We've talked about generally how it generally how the game feels. Let's wrap up with 5 minutes of wish listing. When I say wish listing, what I mean, Simon, is what is your hope for finest of Italian armies?
Oh, now there's a question. Well, I quite like the black shirts in the last what's it called?
Told you're not allowed to say like the black shirts, Simon.
No, the rules for them in the last campaign book. So just roll those over would be ideal.
Everyone fanatics all the way.
Yay. You know what? I just randomly, I think I'm going to end up with 2 armies that are basically going to be infantry heavy and a lot of guns. So I would like to actually be able to just, it would be nice to have the Italian. I think the problem with the Italian rules last time was that you had to play attacker defender to get the most out of it. So it would be nice to try and if they could work those, so actually you didn't need to be playing an attacker defender mission to benefit from the Italian rules. I don't know why, because I don't like what it is. They can play black shirts and Italian black shirt army with with the random rules and the Italian morale rules. So I don't know why I do that to myself. And I hope they don't lose that element of that element, because that's what I like playing them, because sometimes they're brilliant and other times, to turn 2 when they're all Foxtrot Oscar.
Yeah. If you wanted a competent army, you bring your British Airborne out. when you want it to be anyone's game, it's gonna be the Italians.
What does your army do? Well, it's either unbreakable or
very breakable.
Yeah, there's no in between. So but it would be nice to actually have a way of playing that army with, you know, some decent artillery, playing, you know, like you said, having the infantry sat in front of the guns and using like almost like an old school World War I artillery barrage.
How would you feel about this? And I have no idea, by the way. This is not a sneak preview. This is complete wish listing. How would you feel about the Italians have 2 national traits? Maybe 3. One they always get. We don't know what it could be. But one they always get. But then, a bit like, you know how the Brits, they pick one. Italians don't get to pick. They get 1 trait if the scenario is attacker-defender and they're the defender.
Yeah.
And they get 1 trait if the Italia is attacker-defender and they're the attacker. And then if there's no designated attacker defender, they can just pick which one they want.
It'd be interesting.
So it's like, oh, we're in an attacker defender kind of scenario. You get all the 3 barricades. Oh, you're in the attacker scenario. Have something else.
Yeah. I as long as you come in and there's a little bit of character about them.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I took the Italians, because they've got character.
You could have it. Okay. There's 3. You get 3 or 3 to 6 choices. Okay. And at the beginning of the game, you roll a dice. Find out which national characteristic you have.
Who knows what? I mean, let's be honest. They've got some absolutely fantastic fezzes. So you know, that's I'm happy with the fezzes. They've got quality fezzes. I honestly don't know what they're going to do with them. I just know that when I play for someone who, you know, is not normally a competitive player, there's no army that makes me smile like my Italian army. Honestly, you know, the fact that I'm sat there going, I've got 3 units that are all now shirkers and a -2 on my morale, and the rest of my dice are all just going to be going down. That's my but it's so funny.
But then the last game you played, they were all fanatics.
It was 2 out of 3 were fanatics.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm looking forward, and I'm strange. I keep looking off to the right because I'm just looking at my my list of stuff that I've got to paint, and I'm looking. Oh,
what's in the pile of shame?
Well, I'm down now. I'm just finishing off my blade guard, and I'm like, right. So I'm going to build my my assault intercessors, or I've got about 15 Italian infantry just sat there.
Italians, man, Italians. Mate. As someone who is aware of your Space Marine, Imperial Guard, all the you don't need any more of that. What you need in your life is more Italians. That's what you need.
Where are they? Yeah.
You've got an airborne army as well, don't you, or something?
There we go. He's a little fella.
Oh, nice. Hey, there he is.
Look, check out the fez.
Oh, it's great. It's great, man. I got a whole buttload of Italians. it was 1,000-point Italian army. It's probably not quite now, but yeah, I got like 30 Alpini and 10 of the Paraduzzi. I don't know how I'm pronouncing that correctly, but that's the thing with it when you play the Italians. You've got to say like the names. Like I used to like get a lot of inspiration from Captain Corelli's mandolin, and also from it's like, hey, Bambina.
I love visiting Italy, so I've got no wish to get banned because of your associations with you.
And
have you been to Santorini? Anyway, it's
no.
Beautiful. Definitely recommend it.
Oh, sort me out.
Santorini is stunning.
Nice. I always, whenever you play your Italians, I always say the following line, which really annoys you, because it's from Company of Heroes 3. Gustatore, we can do it better. That's how you've got to play Italians.
Yeah, even if I haven't got any Gustatori in my list at that point.
It doesn't matter. The moment you activate a unit, it's Gustatore, we can do it better.
Yeah. So anyway, what would it be? 2 weeks, 3 weeks before we see the rules for those?
I could try and ask for them early.
Oh,
could try and ask, because it'd be cool to do a battle report with them, with the manufacturer like day one. Kind of cool.
Yeah.
So I'll ask.
Yeah. Your 3 tanks against my half a tank.
Well, this is big question. The Italian tanks were very good in second edition, ironically, because they had a bazillion machine guns.
Yes, that's true.
Now they don't. They have as many machine guns, but they only have half the shots.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to get some of the tank destroyers. So I think they're not bad, to be fair.
Semavente.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's quite good. Although the funny thing is, Simon, everyone's tanks have had half the machine gun shots. Had the machine gun shots half. Half of the Germans who have had, the Germans have had it cut by a third.
Half, and then, yeah.
So you'll still probably have the best Dakar tanks in the game.
Yes.
There's that.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Hopefully they're just still as much fun to play.
Yeah. Shout out though. You mentioned this yesterday. Is it the Bersaglieri or the Italian army starter army, which comes with like 2 artillery pieces, and you can use like both of them now?
Yeah.
Or something. There's something there that.
You can. I think you can magnetize them. I wish I'd done it now. It's quite easy to magnetize the M14. Can either be the tank destroyer or the tank.
Well, no, Simon, because you'll want 3 tanks. So now you've got an excuse to go.
No, I think I don't want 3 tanks. I think I want like 6 anti-tank guns. That's the way.
You could take 2 of the medium howitzers and then 2 of the anti-tank guns.
Yeah, so the Italian and black shirt starter army comes with what does it come with now? 36 infantry, 1 tank, HQ, medium mortar team, metal MMG team, and an anti-tank gun team.
And is it the Bersaglieri which get the flat gun?
I'm just checking now, actually.
One of them gets a flat gun, which I think is quite spicy.
Yeah, I need to get some of those bad boys, actually.
Honestly, if I was to give you a piece of advice, Simon, it would be buy 1 of each Italian starter army.
Yeah, could you imagine my pile of shame then? God.
Mate, speed paint, you'll crack it out.
I can't, because then I'd have to repaint all the others. I'm going to have to do some tankettes.
Yes. Yes. I bet they will look so cute.
What's this? They've got the Carabinieri section that's there now with their fantastic hats.
It's all about the drip.
Have you seen the hats on those bad boys?
No, let me take a look. I might be able to throw them on screen if you give me a second. Let's bring this over 1 minute. Woo! Oh wow. Yeah, why don't you have like 3 boxes of those already, man? There's something special. Wow.
That's just quality.
There's something special. I'm gonna get some of those, man. They look great.
What, to go in your Italian pile of shame that's hidden underneath the desk?
Mate, I'm really burning rubber on that pile of shame, man. I've painted all my bot action tanks, painted all my 40k tanks. I'm ready to sit down and paint 200 bot action infantry, which is what is currently sat in my pile of shame.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I think I might have to get the Bersaglieri starter army, get the Semaventi, and then get some elite troopers in my army.
Because that would get you up to, on a serious note, and it's a good to talk about a serious note because we're talking about adapting armies for 3rd edition, which is very much a conversation, I think, and a topic that's going to be on everyone's minds. I think, what the conversation we've just had there, Simon, is one that a lot of people are going to be having right now. Is you get that Bersaglieri, or however you say it, the funny running Feather Hatmen army, and you will then have 3 vehicles because you'll have your M13, is it, plus another tank. Yeah. And then you'll have the auto blinder. So that's
sexiest tank in the game. Honestly, I get far too excited about that vehicle.
The auto blender, man. It's big dick energy on the auto blender. But so you've got 3 of those. You could pick up a tankette as well because you just said you like the look of one of those. So that's that's all the armor you're ever going to need if you're going to run Italian. It's probably more than enough. It's probably 4 times more than enough. But you'll have that. Then you'll have a decent amount of infantry. You'll have an artillery gun. You have an anti-tank gun. You'll have a couple of mortars. You'll have a couple of machine gun teams. And you'll have the is it the light anti-tank gun that you get in there as well, like the elephant gun, whatever it's called. Yeah, so you buy that 1-star army, and suddenly you're cooking on gas.
Yeah. Well, anyway, that's maybe next. I'm gonna get what I've got painted anyway, and then maybe I've got to get some more guns for my airborne first.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I think if I have to say, if there's 2 things that are really getting me really excited for Bolt Action 3rd edition, is genuinely seeing proper airborne army, and a proper Italian army, because they're 2 complete extremes.
No pressure.
Yeah, man. Well, you're going to work on your end. I'll probably work on the US airborne for my end. Then between us, we might even have some sort of joint operations stuff going on. It'd be kind of cool.
Definitely.
But shall we wrap it up there?
Well, yeah, I think most people are probably, after the conversation about fancy hats and being unable to spell Cabanieri, they've thought, no, sod this off. But life is too short for this madness.
Why are we watching these people? But Simon, as always, it has been a pleasure to have you on, man. All right,
and thanks for having me.
And we should say, before we wrap up, we should say, to the people watching, let us know what you guys think. What are your hot takes on 3rd edition after seeing our game, maybe a few other games, after maybe getting sight of some of the rules? And the big question is, how are you getting Bolt Action 3rd edition ready? Whatever army you've got, what are you doing to get it ready for the new and exciting casual and competitive meta? That is the new edition.
And I think we also need to find out who everyone thinks has the best hats in Bolt Action.
Yes, who's got the best hats?
That could be a whole new video.
It could be, and if anyone gives the answer that isn't Italians, that's just wrong. Okay, you're allowed opinions, but opinions can be wrong. Italians, those Carabinieri, the big Admiral Nelson hat bastards, they're the ones. I'm getting a squad of those for my army, and I'm using them every game. But it's Soviets versus Germans. I don't care. Big hat men are coming in every time. All right, guys. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe. And Simon, once again, mate, thank you, buddy. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Take care.
Would you like to know more? If so, then please consider becoming a channel member or patron. By supporting the channel, not only will you be doing your part, but you'll also be helping me create more content for your viewing pleasure and unlocking a whole host of perks. You get everything from a badge next to your name, custom emojis, but the big one is access to the Mordian Glory Discord server, an online community with almost 2,500 active members. It's always popping off in the MG Discord. We've got channels for army lists, hobbying, tactics, stories, and even a pretty spicy meme section as well. For all you greenhorns that wanted to see the Mordian glory hole, today is your lucky day. And joking aside, I do want to say a massive thank you to all of the current channel members and patrons. You guys are amazing. Truly the lifeblood of the channel. I could not do Mordian Glory full time without the incredible and generous support of my members. So thank you guys so much. And last but certainly not least, I want to say a personal thank you to all of my top tier Patreons. These are the War Masters, the people who have truly gone above and beyond the call of duty. So a heartfelt thank you to Alex Dengal, Bon Vert, Lord Pryor, Mark Panconi, RJ Scorpion, Swordfish Trombone, Try Again Bragg, John Stubbs, Nick Walsh, Diesel Fox, and August Barney. Seriously, guys, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Your support is incredible and it makes a huge difference. Thank you so much. That's all for now. Hope you've all enjoyed today's video. And of course, as always, I'll see you guys next time.